I just got asked to do a video about how to look inside and fully feel pain or emotions, I think is how it was asked. So this video is for you. Anyone else who cares. So it's funny you ask. I've been asked this a lot. Like people have commented on, because I make videos on how emotion is really like the answer to all your problems. It's the gateway. It's the, just feeling and releasing. And then you're finally able to see all the stuff I'm talking about. And it's a common question, and I get a lot of comments and complaints about like people that are unable to feel and they don't know how to feel. And in a way, you're asking the right person, because I did not have an emotion for probably 20 years. And now I have a full range of emotion. They come and go. They're all over the place. I enjoy every second of it. It feels full. It feels like I'm living life. It's amazing. I'm not attached to them. Now, all that to say, I'm not a professional or a counselor or any of that stuff. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. And I'm also just going to speak from my experience, because I have read a lot and I know a lot about this stuff, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to share how it happened for me, because that's the only truth that I know and can really share with any kind of integrity. So hopefully something I say in this story helps or resonates. Maybe there's a gold nugget you can pick up here and there. If not, sorry for wasting your time. Now, let's go back to the beginning. I was 8 years old, and my dad just like up and left very abruptly. In my little world, everything was perfect. My parents loved each other. My life was fantastic. One day, my mom started yelling. Never seen her yell in my life. My dad was kicked out. I found out later he cheated, which is not surprising. But I didn't know that as a kid. So it was like everything was perfect, and then everything was shattered in an instant. So my entire life changed in one moment, and I was too young to process or know what the heck just happened. So naturally, I blamed myself. I cried. I got mad. I went through all the stages. And there was a long stretch of crying. I still remember as a kid. And I somehow internally made a vow to myself that I hate this man and I'm never going to cry about this again. And wow, it worked. It wasn't good, but it worked. So I grew up and got tougher and started fighting and being angry and not feeling really anything except anger. Now, when it came to empathy, compassion, love, even seeing a good movie that makes you cry, like none of that was functional. I didn't have it. But as an adult who isn't able to feel, you might be thinking like, oh, there's something wrong with me. What's going on? Like, I wish it was different. Oh, maybe there's some deep repressed stuff. Like, none of that's really a big deal. It will correct. Things will come up as they come up. It will work its way out. If you are in any kind of path at all, if you're interested in anything I'm saying, you're probably already pretty aware. And people that are aware of these things, they end up healing, growing, getting better. Like, it's just part of the, I'm not even worried for you. Now, so for a long, long time, I did not feel anything. And yeah, I got so used to it, I didn't think it was even a problem. I didn't even notice. And then it became a problem. Now, I wouldn't tie this to my emotions. I just started having problems, started suffering, kind of sort of found God in a way. I was a Christian for a while, and I just really was like trying to be the best person that I could be. And I just saw other people who had this lightness, this laughter, this joy, this enjoyment of life. And a lot of them are older. And I just always wondered, like, how are they like that? How are they doing that? because I always felt deep down like I was lacking something, like I just wasn't a happy person, or like maybe my lot in life was just to be kind of a drone or bored or sad all the time. Like I just, my base level was so low. I just thought either there's something wrong with me or everyone else knows something I don't, or whatever. I started to notice this gap between the way I experience life and other people experience life, and I wasn't enjoying that. I started to notice, and it started to make me think more and more. Anyway, then I grew up and more and got married, and was starting to be told by my wife that I had some issues, which, women do that, but she wasn't wrong. In a lot of ways, she was right. So I started going to counseling, and it's kind of funny because it didn't help, but it did. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly started this. So I'll get to your question. I'm getting there, the long route. But when it comes to like when things shift internally, it's hard to pinpoint it to a specific date or time, or what even caused it, because I started doing a couple different things. So I was looking at beliefs, I was deconstructing my religion, I was kind of starting to see that there's no truth or no practicality in what I believed. It wasn't helping me or changing my life at all. I started meditating and I started counseling. So those three things were happening at the same time. Now, as far as the thing that sparked my emotional awareness, I'm tempted to blame counseling on this one. Not blame, credit counseling for this. Because I started going to counseling, and he noticed very quickly I couldn't relive memories or tell stories in a way that wasn't robotic and factual. I wasn't feeling any of it. I was just relaying information. So he gave me this feeling wheel, which I printed out and took to work, put on the wall, and 3 times a day. It was mechanical, it was boring, and I thought it was dumb. And I even told the counselor, I'm like, this is dumb. This isn't going to work. I don't know what you're trying to do here, but I think this is whatever. This is dumb, and I'm going to do it anyway. So I took his advice. 3 times a day, I would check in and ask myself how I feel. And at first, it was so hard because I didn't feel anything. I just thought, nothing. I don't know. I don't know where to put this. And over time, I mean, God, it took a long time, weeks, months. I started to notice, I am feeling a certain way. Like if I can really tune in, like I stood there at work looking at this feeling wheel, trying to figure out, and there's a lot of categories, like which one of those I felt. So that forced me to think about what an emotion is, what a feeling is, like what feeling in my body do I attribute to a certain word that we call an emotion. And it just started this whole cognitive process and physical sensation feeling process. And I noticed it work when one night I was playing a board game with my wife, and every time she said something or brought up something, I just really quickly shut it down. I didn't know I was doing this. I became aware I was doing it, and suddenly I looked at her and I said, I'm angry, and I'm shutting down everything you're saying. I'm so sorry. And it was the first time I ever noticed at all how I was acting because of my emotional state. And she immediately just started crying in a good way. just shocked that I even noticed, and I'm sure she felt seen in that moment, and just let it out. She just started crying, and I thought, oh my God, like I've been such an asshole, and I wasn't even aware of it. So I went back to my counselor and was like, hey, jerk, this is working. That guy loved me. I told him he just needed to be punched in the face. It wasn't that bad. He laughed so hard. He said he was going to put that in his book when he was writing some book. It's like, I've never had anyone tell me I just need to be punched in the face. I'm like, yeah, you fear it your whole life, and then it happens, and you realize, wow, it wasn't that bad, and then you get over it. It's like being laughed at. Anyway, so yeah, sadly and really minimally, that was like the beginning of me starting to be aware of what I was feeling. And I didn't, at that time, I wasn't taking it to meditation. I wasn't really thinking about it much. I just started being able to have an emotional vocabulary. So if somebody asked me, how are you feeling? I could actually think about it, feel my body, and start to answer. Another thing my counselor would do, which annoyed me, was tell me, like, where do you feel it in your body when you're angry? And I'm like, what do you mean, where do I feel it? And when I started answering, I noticed every answer I had was the same, which kind of scared me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm describing all my emotions in the exact same way because I'm so unaware of what the physical sensation is of sadness versus anger versus happiness versus excitement versus scared. They all felt the same to me because I didn't ever feel and I wasn't aware that there were differences. Now, this is the unsexy part of this stuff. Like, everybody just wants to have an instant awakening and all their problems go away, and that's just not how it is. Like, you get to a place where you look at every moment and you think, awesome, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. There's nothing to do. It doesn't matter. But that state gets attained after a lot of work, which is what in the non-dual world is not really talked about very much because it's not sexy. It's not awesome. It's not hip. It doesn't get views. But it's real. Like, the real part of this is you have to want health. You have to want growth. You have to want to change more than you want to breathe. Otherwise, it will not happen. You have to give it 110%. And when you finally struggle through all of the crap and arrive or just like break out of it and see it for what it is, then the effort becomes effortless. But at first, there's a ton of effort. So for a couple years, it took me, I just went through a lot of failure. I learned what not to do and what emotions were appropriate in certain scenarios. And I had a lot of anger come up. And beneath the anger, I saw there was a lot of sadness I wasn't looking at and wasn't feeling. So like a lot of my 20 years of not feeling, I was feeling. I was just repressing them and suppressing them so quickly that they never made it through or to the surface. So I never felt it. So it became anger. Now, all this to say, how do you look inside and feel? If you have locked yourself up like I did and hid behind thought, I became very intellectual. I studied a lot. I read every book. My personality type is an Enneagram 5. So I will give you a very thought out paragraph answer to any question you ask because I like to sound smart, if I'm just being honest. Or I used to. I guess I don't care anymore as much. But that was born out of insecurity and unfeeling. So if I was able to just feel my emotions, maybe that wouldn't have happened. So anyway, for me, thoughts grew to hide emotion underneath that I wasn't willing to feel. So the emotional awareness started in counseling, and then when I was meditating, I started to notice my thoughts, because that's what meditation is. You get on the mountaintop, you look down in the valley of your thoughts, and you observe, and you think, wow, it's a shitstorm down there. This crazy town. And I started to see not just random thoughts. Like, you meditate a few times and you're just like, it's crazy there's random thoughts. But you meditate for years like I did, and you start to see patterns. You start to notice, if I have this thought, I know the next 20 thoughts after that. And if I have this group of thoughts, I can kind of put that in a category. And then I often have this group of thoughts and I can put that in a category. And I started to notice when I would almost feel something, instead of feeling it, I would repress it or suppress the feeling because I was scared of the feeling, and then immediately those thought forms would come up, and it would be the same stories and the same patterns. So I began to notice that when I am in my day working, talking to people, and I start having these thought patterns, I could see it now. I'd recognize, oh, I'm in that pattern I just witnessed a few days ago. And in that pattern, I noticed underneath, every time I'm thinking in this way, underneath is sadness. And that became really intense and really beneficial and really scary when I started making these connections, because I started to see the connection between my thoughts and my emotions, and all the thoughts that I was having to mask my emotion, and how connected they were. So when I started seeing thought patterns, I'd realize, oh, I'm just hiding from an emotion. So I would just not even go into the thoughts. Like, I would ignore them and notice what I was feeling in that moment. And I would let that feeling come up. Now, I wasn't good at it at first, and I still had a lot of fear because I wasn't used to emotions or letting myself feel. So it would come up like 5 or 10%, and I would get kind of scared again and then shove it down and be like, okay, that was okay. I did a little better than last time. And anyway, that kept going over time. It got more and more and more, to the point that if I had a certain feeling in my body, I could almost tell you exactly what I was going to think, or the other way around. If I was having certain thoughts, I could connect it to a feeling. I'd be like, oh, I'm thinking about, oh, I'm mad at my manager or my boss, and I'm starting to stew about all the things they're doing wrong and blah, blah, blah. I would instantly know, oh, somebody said something I don't like. And instead of confronting that person, I'm letting my mind go crazy with other people in authority, because that's what my mind does. It gets mad at authority figures when anything makes me mad that I don't confront. Why? I don't know. That's just how my mind works. Now, being able to spot the patterns is really helpful. And how that happens was how it happened for me was a mixture of observing my mind in meditation and growing in emotional intelligence, which started with counseling. So being able to name and describe the sensations in my body of whatever feeling is coming up, and then seeing the connection between thought and feeling. So how did I look inside and feel was the question I think I answered. Now it's become so immediate and so fast that sometimes I don't even notice the thought or the emotion. It's just like instantaneously. It just comes up, and it's not even a process that I'm consciously doing. It's just happening on its own now. I heard someone say once, how would you describe what you're feeling, an emotion, to an alien from another planet who doesn't experience emotions? And it just really made me think, like, wow, how would I explain this? Like, it's such an internal, interesting thing going on that it would be very hard to explain. But you have to get that good and that close to, and that you have to become one with what you're feeling. You have to become a master at not just saying, I am sad, but like, really, what does it feel like? Like, my jaw has a slight change a little bit, and like the sides of my eyes, I can start feeling the water come in this way, and then underneath gets a little heavier. My nose kind of changes a little bit. And like, I almost feel it a little bit in like my collarbone area, kind of comes like forward, which then bring my shoulder forward a little bit, and then my entire body kind of has this same sensation of like leaning forward and hugging your mom. Just, I mean, I could go on and on, like just explaining sadness, like the feeling of sadness, how your body moves, the sensations, the tingling, like all of it, all of it. Before, I couldn't even tell you what it was, what it felt like. And what happens eventually is when you do this, the word becomes meaningless because you realize that what the feelings are so rich. And then when you tune into them enough, at first you need the words to describe something, but then you start feeling into the actual sensation, the real experience. And the words become secondary because they're just mouth noises trying to describe something that is indescribable. But when you get better at describing it, you can drop the descriptions. And then you can be sitting in meditation and feeling without labels or concepts. And when you finally get to that stage, that is when everything just breaks. Reality just breaks because you start to see that everything in reality is just a perception and a feeling and a sensation. And thoughts get tied to things that they have no business getting tied to. They just show up like, hey, I want that. And they take it. So at first you really just gotta honestly practice, and it's kind of annoying. It kind of takes work, but then it just becomes second nature. Like getting fit. You know, you go to the gym, it's really hard at first, maybe for years, and then eventually you get to the place that you always dreamed of, and then you just maintain it. And the maintaining, it's easy. But yeah, getting there is it's just creating space through meditation. I found meditation works the best, or time in nature really helps. Just creating enough empty space to where when you have an emotion, a feeling, a thought, you can observe them from that empty space without judgment, without condemnation, without anything but observation. And when you are able to do that, then emotions can hit you with 100% intensity. They can just come and go. They don't get stuck. You don't have all this repressed, weird energy that's causing physical problems, mental issues, more thoughts from happening. And what happens is when you let an emotion just come and go, your thoughts get quieter. Because as stuff comes up and you let yourself feel it and just release it, forgive, accept, whatever you want to call it, just let it go. The thoughts go with it, because a lot of these thought forms and thought patterns and just thought storms are attached to unfelt emotions or stuck emotions. So when you finally feel them and they get unstuck and they leave, a lot of your thoughts just go with it. So your internal world gets quieter as you're able to feel. So you feel more, your internal world gets quieter. You keep meditating, you keep feeling. Stuff comes up. Sometimes you can sit and like think of something and make something come up, but you don't really need to. You can just be still and let it come up on its own. And then as you get quieter, you're able to feel more. And as you can feel more and more gets released, you get quieter. And this keeps going until eventually you just see through it all. And you realize, wow, this is just part of a system of the body, of being alive in a human body, and actually has nothing to do with who I am. So instead of having the concept, I'm not the body or the mind, you actually experience it for yourself. Not the concept, the feeling. You somehow slowly detach, or for me, all at once, just bam, ripped apart. And then you're over here, your body, your thoughts, your emotions are over here. And meanwhile, you over here with no concepts sometimes wonder, what is this? What am I? if my body and my thoughts and my emotions are over here. Now, when that happens in a real way, there is no concept of non-duality. You are it. You experience it. And then everything becomes super easy. You just feel when you feel. You think when you think. You sleep when you sleep. There's just nothing else. Everything just is. And there's no issues. So, for me, it was a long process of going from completely numb, completely traumatized, unfeeling, to very open, feeling healthy, to then fully embracing everything to the point where I was able to transcend it somehow and let go of it. To now live in a state where if anything traumatizing or crazy happened, it wouldn't be crazy or traumatizing. It's weird to say that, but like something really terrible could happen to me, and in the physical world it might be terrible or might be painful, but who I am is never touched by it. It sounds like disassociation when I say it like that. It's hard to explain. Anyway, I hope anything somehow in this kind of long video that your question was answered. And if not, feel free to ask me a more specific or pointed question. I can always make another video. And thanks for watching.